But yeah, Mo, and it's funny because Mo hit me about this recently when I put out my LA Knight video, and she was like, "I have so much to say about the
Yeah.
AEW women's division." So now, Moretta Brown, I wish I knew your
Mm.
middle name, but I don't, and
Nope.
it's probably good that I don't. The floor is yours. The floor is yours.
Listen, and again, we're already about an hour into this podcast, so I'm not going to take up the people's time because there are a lot of people who feel the same way, who've aggregated all this information. So I'm not going to bore you with statistics and things like that. Someone's already done this on YouTube where they superimpose the Kanye, Mike Myers, Bush doesn't care about black people. They put Tony Khan's face over it and said Tony Khan doesn't care about women. So I'm going to direct you to that video to just understand my frustration. I know at the beginning of this podcast, I jokingly said I'm an AEW women's division hater. I'm not. I think I love a lot of the women in that division. And just to start off with the positives, they do absolutely have a stacked women's division roster. And that's not even counting Athena's run in Ring of Honor right now. She is taking that women's championship in Ring of Honor and made it its own thing. Like, I have talked to people who said they watch Ring of Honor solely for Athena. So the fact that she's there and not on main roster AEW, they're going to put her on the pre-show for All Out. And that, so let me just synthesize. You've got a stacked roster. You've got Nyla Rose, Britt Baker, Thunder Rosa, maybe. There's a rumor. You've got the Outcasts. You've got Chris Statlander, Jade Cargill. And you mean to tell me with all of that power, they get one match a week on Dynamite at 6:30, always at 6:30, and it's never more than 10 to 15 minutes. I don't understand the logic to that. I think people have been clamoring for more women's matches on Dynamite. I think multi-women's matches do not count. I don't like, much like Aaron said, if you get more than 4 people in a match, in a tag match, people get lost in the shuffle. You can still build stories within those matches, but those names I just said, Hikaru Shida, you can build strong, sustainable stories with the women individually without mashing them all into the same match. There is a great Twitter, Kristen Ashley. I'm going to shout her out right now. She put together a bunch of charts since 2021. So for almost 2 years, the women have not had more than one match on Dynamite. And they also have
Wow.
not had more than 10 minutes to wrestle on Dynamite since 2021.
That's insane. I did not know that.
That's
So
crazy.
check her out, Kristen Ashley. Maybe we can drop her Twitter because she's starting a women's wrestling podcast, I think this week, because of her pushing for Tony Khan to do better. And I'm also, and to add to her point too, I just had a point and I'm about to lose it. So since AEW was built on, we are an alternative from WWE, right? So you have, we're going to push the people who we think deserve to be pushed. They always said we have a way diverse roster of people that we want to showcase. Okay, then, if you're different than WWE, why are you falling into the same traps? I feel like.
Hold on, I'm gonna play devil's advocate though.
Hold on, but I'll finish this point up real quick, and I'll pass it off. So even recently, if you look at the charts Kristen Ashley put out between NXT and main roster, the women have gotten so much time on Raw, SmackDown, and NXT shows.
So that means that AEW is an alternative. That's what I was about to say.
Well, listen. And on top of that, so you mean to tell me your competition is showing you up? And so back in 2016, I think it was 2015, we had that hashtag of we want to, what was it called? Give divas a chance.
Yeah.
And of course now WWE has totally co-opted that hashtag, and it was like, oh, we listened to the fans and we gave them evolution, and Stephanie McMahon created women's wrestling because of that hashtag. That's the whole joke.
Yeah.
So my thought was, I understand that WWE is like a 50-year-old company. They finally got with it after people got together. AEW had 50 plus years of WWE's history to know that having just one women's card on a weekly television show, one match, ain't gonna cut it. And yet they fell back into the same trappings that WWE is. So stop advertising yourself as an alternative to WWE, because you're not. If anything, you're just doing the same shit that WWE did. It
I
or
mean,
did.
I mean,
So
technically, from what you said, technically they are an alternative because they don't have women's matches on TV and they don't have
I'm gonna come
stories.
get you.
They don't. So they don't have stories, and
No.
they don't have time for the women. So they are an alternative. But
And I will say this too, real quickly.
I'm messing
and
around saying about the
I
stories.
know. I told Pat this too. I said the biggest ball drop for AEW has been the Outcast storyline. I think,
Well,
truthfully,
here's my thing. I'm floored by the fact that those stats, since 2021, they haven't had more than one match for more than 10 minutes. That's insane
Right.
to
only
think of.
one Dynamite they did, and that was
But
it.
but here's my thing: is that that's fine. Well, it's not fine, but like if you're gonna put them on TV, you have to give them stories that matter. And I think that's the
Right.
biggest issue is that the more that you give these women, oh, be careful with all that mic scraping. The
Sorry.
more that you, the more typical woman. No, let me stop playing. After talking
Okay,
about
now we really fighting. We're going to fight right
Here we
now.
go,
the more,
folks.
but,
Here we
but
go.
here's the thing: the more that you give these women chicken shit and expect them to make chicken salad, when half of them haven't been in the business for more than 10 years, 10 to 12 years, the more that you're going to put them in positions to fail. They don't give them the resources to want to be seen. I mean, and there's people that want more women wrestling, but the storylines that they give the women are terrible. That's number one. Number two, the way that he utilizes a lot of the women on the roster don't make sense. Why do you have Taya Valkyrie come in and lose 5 times in the first 2 months she's there, and she's bigger than every woman on the roster? Why do you have Ruby Soho? I mean, I love the Outcast. I really do. They've grown on me.
Too.
They've grown on
Same.
me. But I think that those women would have been served better to be infused with other women on the roster. You know, why is Britt? And I like Britt Baker. I like her better than I like Becky Lynch. Y'all know I can't stand Becky Lynch. People gonna come for me for that.
They sure is. I'm not gonna stop them.
But Britt Baker should not be the top woman in AEW. I don't think she should have ever been the top woman in AEW. There's always been people that have been more talented than her in that locker room. So it's just there's a lot of and there's nothing against Britt. Like I like Britt, but I just think that if we're gonna get to a point in AEW where the women are utilized the way they should be, they need to be booked the way they should be. They need to be written for the way they should be. And the worst part about this all is you got Mercedes Moné. To me, the greatest women's wrestler of the last in-ring, just in-ring period, the greatest technical women's wrestler in the last 10 to 15 years, sitting in a skybox watching your show, and you're expecting her to... And there was a white dude sitting beside her that we were all like, who is that dude? And I kept saying, that's the dude talking to her about money right now. What do you think she's going to say to that dude who's trying to sign her to a deal when she sees that the biggest show in your history, these women got less than 10 minutes? You think she wants to... She's probably on the phone with Triple H and Vince McMahon right now like, yeah, I was at their show. It's a bunch of bullshit. But look, I'll come over there if y'all let me feud with Bianca right off bat. If y'all let me take the title off Rhea right off bat, and you know WWE's going to say yes.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my thing. Is if you want them to matter, you got to make them matter. And I don't think Tony hasn't shown that he wants to do that or is going to do it. I do like where the Outcast storyline is going. They're finally doing some stuff with that. That's largely in part due to what Tony Storm has been doing lately.
And I'm gonna give Eric a chance to jump in on this, but I will say ditto to everything you said, and I think you, especially the part about Mercedes Moné. Why would I want to come into a company and when you only got one women's match?
You had 5 hours. You had 5 hours,
and they got 8.5 minutes from.
You telling me that Ruby and Stat couldn't have gone on that show?
Right.
And why wouldn't you showcase both the women's belts at All In? People love Chris Statlander. They love her. And so I agree with you, Aaron, is that people aren't going to care until we have people like Jack Perry bringing him back up. We watching him flesh out his character on screen week after week. He's not a natural heel, but he's trying to figure it out. Why can't you give that same gravitas to other women, to the women? We don't have to see Jack do that. Take that shit to Rampage. I say it all the time. Have him figure his heel shit out on Rampage and then bring him to Dynamite when he's cooked.
Yeah.
You can give another women's match instead of having him come out and shoot these 5-10 rambling promos only for Hook to come and choke him out in 2.6 seconds. We don't need it. Anywho, Eric, what you got to say?
Yeah. You also just reminded me something when you re-mentioned Jack Perry. That dude don't deserve Anna Jay. That dude don't deserve Anna Jay. But
he
anyway,
forgot one of his insults in the earlier segment. He forgot it.
Anyway, yeah, I mean, y'all kind of already said it best. Yeah, you know, it's like there's so many women in AEW that I like love, and I love to watch wrestle, and I feel like, you know, they could have a thriving women's division for sure. You know, it's not that like I feel like some people are like, oh, well, no, like the talent's not there. I feel like the talent is there.
I hate that argument when people say that because they have the same level of talent that WWE has, in my opinion.
For sure.
The only person that WWE has that's far and above to me, the only people are probably Rhea Ripley and Bianca Belair. But if you compare the rest of them, and Charlotte, I guess, because she's the queen. But like,
I'm over Charlotte, dude.
I am too. I am too. So it's like, yeah. But, you know, but other than Rhea Ripley and Bianca Belair, like, there's not a huge gap in talent at all.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah, and it's just like, and here's the thing about the whole, like, I don't know, you know, like Tony's like, oh, you know, like we wanted to keep the pay-per-view like moving, you know, that whole thing, whatever the hell he said. It's, I mean, you could have given him 10 more minutes. You know, what's 10 more minutes? Because honestly, that pay-per-view was moving along, you know, and an extra 10 minutes for the women's match ain't gonna make it feel like, oh, this has dragged on super long. You know what I mean? Or
they should have cut a little bit off of that Fozzy performance. I'm not gonna lie.
Cut a little bit off of the what?
Off of that Fozzy performance. I'm not gonna
lie. I'm not gonna disagree with that. I was gonna say they could have shaved 10 minutes off the Stadium Stampede. Truthfully, just tighten it up. Just tighten it up.
Yeah, but honestly, it's like for me, and maybe it's just because I was having a good time with it all. To me, that pay-per-view felt like, you know, like when it was over, I was like, I could keep going. You know, it's like I could have had another 10 minutes of that women's match. I could have had 10 more minutes of that women's match and another women's match. I could have had Stat and Ruby at that, you know, pay-per-view. I mean, I understand they need something for All Out, which I guess we'll get into a little bit if we want to. But yeah, you know, there's so many women in that division that I want to watch wrestle, but it's just like, you know, it is what it is, I guess. And hopefully Tony hears the complaints and maybe starts to step it up a little bit.
I think, well, no, go ahead. No, because I'm gonna give you final thoughts right now because we are gonna get to All Out actually.
Yeah.
And we'll start with Ruby and Stat, but get to what you were going to say, though.
Well, I'll just briefly say I'm never one to just complain and not have an action plan in place. I know we're just like fans of wrestling, but I told folks, like, keep tweeting at Tony Khan. Tweet at people who we know work for AEW. Bring signs to Dynamite and Rampage and Collision that's like that one person did that say we want to see more women's matches. You know what I mean?
Totally.
Start speaking about it on your podcast, talking about it. I feel like if we did what we did for WWE, if we have a hashtag Give Divas a Chance, maybe someone in the atmosphere will be like, you know what, let's start a hashtag for AEW, because if it gets enough momentum, Tony will see it. His ass stay on Twitter.
Yeah.
So it's just like, I don't see why collectively we're seeing people unionize, we're seeing people striking. I don't see why AEW fans can't hold AEW to a higher standard by doing what we can by using our voice. You know what I mean? So that's all.
Totally. And if it was a big enough thing, I feel like Tony is going to listen to that and start to try to do something about it way before Vince would have, you know?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I will
Absolutely.
say this. The only hashtag that I'm trying to start is hashtag fear the revolver. Because that's
Yes.
the greatest,
Yes.
the greatest
That-
sign.
And on that note,
You saw
Oh yeah, if you like this clip, then be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, yeah! And check out the channel for the latest episode of the podcast. Dig it!